Daniel Ricciardo's had a pretty tough start to life at McLaren, and he's not only fallen behind his teammate in the driver's standings, but he's also failed to score any points in multiple races this season. And with growing doubts over his contract situation at McLaren, it seems like he could actually be on his way out. So does Ricciardo still have a place on the grid? Well, let's dive straight in and discuss. First up, Ricciardo's form casts doubt over his contract. It's been a strange couple of seasons for Danny Ric, who almost looks like a shadow of his past self on the track now. Like, it'd be harsh to say he's lost his mojo, or that he's not fast, because we still see flashes of brilliance from him. But the fact that he's trailed Lando Norris by over 40 points last season, and is on track to repeat that feat this year, doesn't bode well for his future. On top of that, the media talk hasn't been very kind to him either. For instance, every time we've seen an interview with the McLaren CEO Zak Brown, or Ricciardo himself, it's always full of questions about the Australian's future with the team. And while they've been doing a decent job of navigating through these tricky situations unscathed, we've still seen them slip up as well. Take Zak Brown's paddock interview a few weeks ago, for example. When asked whether he was happy with where the Honey Badger was at, he obviously denied and expressed the team's disappointment with his performance. But at the same time, he said that they were trying to find solutions for the driver. Now, if Brown had stopped right there, then it would have been your typical team boss statement. Kind of like how Binotto used to talk about an underperforming Vettel. However, he kept going instead, and ended up shooting his own team in the foot by talking about the Australians' contract situation. And according to him, there's a mechanism in the deal that'd allow them to terminate Ricciardo's tenure at McLaren before his contract actually expires at the end of next season. But after recent comments from the 33-year-old himself, it seems like they probably wouldn't even have to do that. Next, the Aussie opens up about his McLaren future. Of course, no driver wants to hear these words coming from their own boss, especially when they're being said publicly. But with that said, Danny Ric's also been a trooper and takes criticism like an absolute champ. So rather than deflecting the blame onto the car or the team, he just came clean and accepted that he's not been good enough. In fact, he even went as far as to elaborate his position by saying that people obviously expect better from him, and finishing consistently out of the top 10 isn't something that he'd want from his career. But of course, sometimes even PR-drilled F1 drivers can slip up and let some unintentional secrets loose during interviews. Ricciardo's deal, which has been much described as a multi-year contract, was revealed to be 3 years by the Aussie himself. However, he didn't think that there was anything wrong with sharing that information, despite the team's attempts of keeping that stuff hidden. At the same time, though, this conversation was always going to lead to a trickier round of questioning, which the 33-year-old probably hadn't anticipated. So naturally, he had to comment on his future as well. And according to him, contract talks are inevitable, whichever way you look at it. Besides, if he and the team don't find a suitable mid-ground after 2023, then he'd obviously have to look at other options on the grid. Now, Ricciardo doesn't look like someone who's trying to escape. Alright, we know there's tons of speculation around Daniel Ricciardo's future. Plus, his recent run of poor form has only added fuel to the fire. But the thing is, a lot of times, media narratives can blow situations out of proportion, which is why it seems like the situation is dire for the Australian. However, in reality, things really aren't that bad, and he looks like he's settled quite well into the team. For instance, Zak Brown even revealed earlier this week that he went to dinner with a 33-year-old, and the two shared a lot of laughs together, so their relationship is perfectly healthy. At the same time, the banter between Lando Norris and the Honey Badger also shows that the teammates are getting pretty close to each other, on and off the track. The only missing piece here for Daniel is his ability to squeeze more pace out of that McLaren, and according to him, he's been working hard to adjust his driving style and adapt to the new car. Oh, and the team's doing everything that they can too, as their chief engineer revealed that they've built the car around the Aussie's preference, and it's only a matter of fine-tuning some stuff now. So is Daniel Ricciardo staying in Formula One beyond 2023? Let's come back to the age-old question. Will we see more from Danny Ric after his contract expires next year? Well, to answer that, we'd have to look at a couple of things. First, saying that the team's trying to build the car around him and actually nailing it are two very different things. Even if they manage to somehow unlock the Australian's potential again, it's not like he can drag a midfield car into podiums again, no matter how good he is. On top of that, there's a question of whether he wants to continue driving for a team that's been stuck in the best of the rest battle for what seems like an eternity. But then again, where would he even go if he decided not to renew his contract? We mean, everyone seems to love him on the paddock, but do they actually like him enough as a driver to get him in? Honestly, at this point in his career, we don't see any of the top 3 teams opening their doors for him. Plus, his failed experiment at Renault means that Alpine's out of the question too. So that leaves him with either either renewing with McLaren, moving into a smaller team, or leaving Formula One altogether. And while his presence on the paddock's definitely something that's irreplaceable, we wouldn't hold it against him if he decided to abandon the sport and move on to some other racing series. Besides, if a driver of Daniel Ricciardo's ability moved on to, let's say, IndyCar, we're sure that he's going to absolutely dominate everyone else. Alright, time for some other news. First up, Ocon praises Alpine's upgrade efforts. Alpine's one of those teams that goes under the radar a lot, but with a driver pairing of Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso, they've been super consistent and are giving McLaren a run for its money this season. However, it seems like they're ready to launch a full assault for that fourth place in the Constructors' Championship as they brought a massive upgrade package to Silverstone. Now, while they've developed a whole bunch of new parts for the A522, the most notable of them is the new flap formation right below the engine covers. Also, the car seems to be going for more of an aggressive aero setup too, as Alpine has proven that it's more than fast enough in a straight line. And according to Esteban Ocon, the team has pretty much transformed the entire car ahead of the Silverstone Grand Prix. Speaking to the press before his first practice session, the French driver said that he's hopeful of gaining some extra places on Sunday, as everyone in the factory has worked day and night to bring this upgrade package to this race. Next, Toto Wolff slams Horner for pitiful behavior. Porpoising in cars has been wreaking havoc across the paddock this season, as most teams can't seem to figure out a way to minimize its effects. And while the FIA has introduced new directives to control the issue, teams like Red Bull aren't happy with the leeway that comes with it. In fact, Christian Horner's been openly criticizing the decision, saying that it gives certain teams a competitive advantage. However, according to Mercedes boss Toto Wolff, porpoising is a joint issue, and the entire F1 grid needs to come together to solve it. He also said that no one's gaining any competitive edge by having this extra safety measure, so all team bosses, including Horner, should support the new direction rather than delving into pitiful discourse. And finally, Leclerc looks ahead at the next 4 races. At the start of the season, Charles Leclerc, or Charles Leclerc, looked like a man on a mission as he continued to bag wins and opened up a massive gap at the top of the World Championship table. However, a bit of bad luck with reliability and an incredible comeback from Max Verstappen has left the Scuderia a bit disoriented as they failed to replicate their earlier form. However, the Monegasque isn't ready to give up on his title hopes just yet, as according to him, there's every reason to believe that he could make up the 40-point deficit in a few races. Of course, it's easier said than done, but we've got to remember that a couple of DNFs meant 50 points for the driver in second. Having said that, it's Ferrari that's struggling with reliability at the moment. So according to Leclerc, the next 4 races are absolutely critical for the title fight, and whichever way they sway will eventually determine the fate of the championship. And that's a wrap for this video. Do you think Charles Leclerc has a chance of making a late comeback for the championship this season? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.